I know CBD's been around for a while, but now is the time to start trying CBD to supplement your life, because Supreme CBD are giving you the best quality products ever made in CBD. You've got your CBD oil, which is fantastic. It's very strong. Some of the ones that came out originally were quite weak. They weren't necessarily as potent as this, because the more potency, the better quality sleep you get, the better results on your anxiety, and the better you're going to feel. All you do is you give it a little shake, twist it off, and straight in your mouth, like that. And when I do that, I'll get a much better night's sleep, less anxiety, more clarity of mind, because you're not stressing out over stuff quite as much. They also do fantastic CBD gummies, which are my favorite. Just pop one in like that. Got it halfway through the box now. And these are good because not everyone likes the oil, and they taste fantastic. The problem is you want to eat too many of them, right? Got to ration yourself. And also, they've got these CBD creams, which people have had unbelievable results on, whether it be some skin conditions or sometimes to help with recovery from your muscles. If you want to use it for a massage, you can do that as well. It's really good for that. And I just have to give a lot of credit to Supreme CBD for the standard of their products. It's top drawer, and you can't go wrong. And if you do want to check it out, now is the time, because I'm giving you 40% off on your order when you use my code TRUE40 at checkout. That's all block capitals, all one word, TRUE40, when you go to supremecbd.uk. So thanks to Supreme CBD for the great products, but for now, enjoy the video. UFC 299 is in the books, and Sean O'Malley redeemed his only defeat previously against Cheo Vera in a 5-round masterclass of a performance. Now, his loss previously to Cheo was quite controversial for O'Malley, but there was nothing controversial about this. The levels were fully on show between these two. And Sean O'Malley is all about patterns. He creates patterns by telling you a story with his movements, using his limbs. He trains you to memorize those patterns and then deviates from that pattern, proving himself to be a liar and punishing you for believing him in the first place. And it's not just about what's coming next, it's also about when it's coming next. In MMA and in all fighting, really, you have fighters who punch it or kick in rhythms, and it'll be boom, 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 and you get used to that timing. And with him, he's acutely aware that this is what everyone does, and he just doesn't do what everyone else does. He will set up his first 2 strikes, and then when the third one you're expecting is coming, it'll be a second before or a second after. He just deviates from the norm, and that's a credit to his creativity. The guy is very, very clever, and because he is in there creating, his opponents are in there reacting, and they're not getting off their own stuff. They're following his lead, and he is the ring general in there. And because he's always one step ahead of these guys, and they're constantly feeling stupid as he consistently punishes them over and over and over again, you can see how demoralizing it was in there for Cheo Vera. Like, this is a tough, durable guy, and the will to win for him was just beaten out of him. And for Sean, it's not just about his patterns to keep you guessing, but it's also your patterns that he is constantly analyzing by twitching from like his lower body to his upper body. He's constantly moving to memorize, what do you do when I do this? Therefore, I know when I next do that, you're going to do this, and I'm going to fuck you up for it. And it's great to see this in the UFC, because obviously we get this in high-level boxing, we get this in kickboxing, but in MMA, occasionally it's just a fucking brawl and a war, and I love that. But I also love to see a genius at work. And going back to Lyoto Machida, Anderson Silva, and even Conor McGregor, to be fair to him, we've had these fighters, and they're special, and it's good to see we've got another one coming through. Is he on the level of those guys? I don't know, but the man is a genius striker compared to most guys in MMA, and he is getting the absolute most out of those long limbs that he has got, like a fencing type of fighter where he stabs you consistently until you break down. And I feel for Cheo Vera, because he is such a tough dude, but he just wasn't smart enough in there. He showed his hand, constantly biting on the feints. And look, in terms of trying to win a fight against Sean O'Malley, it's a dangerous game to play, but you can't sit off him and let him just work like that. You have to be the aggressor. You have to initiate. You have to lead the dance, because if you're following him, he's going to walk you into your own grave. And when Cheo became the aggressor and led a bit, he did have some success, and he did land and hurt, but it took far too long, and it was too few and far between. And when you're the fighter in there with the striker, it's a little bit like Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. Like, you have to turn it into your kind of fight, because if you play his game, you will fucking lose. And unfortunately for Cheo, he just allowed it. And I think with the age of Sean and the personality that he has, there's a lot of potential in there for him to be a big name in the UFC, not a superstar. People keep talking about him being a superstar. I don't see him any anything like Conor McGregor. The more I get to know him, I think he's far more relatable than Conor McGregor. By him trying to talk to Ryan Garcia, it's just such a waste of time. I've got no interest. I never want to see another MMA fighter and a boxer in a fight situation ever again, to be honest. I've been burned enough, right? Let's just fuck that off. He's talking about fighting Poirier, who's a weight class above, power puncher. I don't want to see that. I think Sean could be a lot more like Izzy, and he could have a long reign potentially over his division and cement himself as potentially the 135-pound goal. I'm not saying he will do that, but that for me is a far better goal for him. He's reaching for the moon far too quickly, and potentially you could end up fucking it all up for yourself. In order to get the most out of a UFC fighter, it's important to know what he is and what he isn't. He is not Conor McGregor. He is not going to give an amazing speech and shut a press conference down and have everyone in the palm of his hand. He is not that guy. People just want to hang out with this guy and smoke a joint with him or whatever. Like, he's just a down-to-earth, chill dude who I think right now thinks he's going to be something he isn't. And I think that's unhealthy, because that's how you get knocked out. And that's how you shorten your career, and you don't have the longevity that he is capable of. So he's not a superstar that's going to transcend the sport, but he is a UFC star who people will like and people will get behind, like Izzy. And yeah, he's a bit weird like Izzy, but like that's kind of fun, right? Let's stop trying to get every single UFC fighter wins a few fights a megastar, make them fight, talking about boxers, moving up weight classes. Let's just calm the fuck down. Good win. Good title defense. A lot more needed before we can call anyone a megastar here. Now, Dustin the Diamond Poirier returned to winning ways after losing his last fight in a really tough fight against Benoit Saint-Denis. I mean, this guy came with like a Khamzat Chimaev level of energy, pushing forward, grappling, in your face, no time to breathe, no oxygen. And I've never seen Dustin Poirier, well, I mean, maybe, but like, I haven't seen him look this knackered before. Like, early in a fight, he was sucking wind, and it was not looking good. He resorted to trying a few guillotine chokes that did not land, and at the end of the first round, he was in an armbar, and it looked bad. Like, I mean, he just looked like, you're in a fucking fight right now, bro, and you're the one getting a bit of an arse kicking. And the reason we love Dustin Poirier is, you know, ironically, if you compare him to Conor McGregor, for example, who he recently fought and beat, he's so different to him in that when McGregor starts going downhill in a fight, you know it's over. He wilts, right? Dustin is the opposite of that. Like, you have to make sure he is done and nailed to the canvas before you write him off. He can always mount a comeback, and that's exactly what he fucking did. And the second round was just as hellacious. I mean, Saint-Denis comes straight forward. Dustin actually does land a nice little uppercut, tries the guillotine choke again, then ends up on his back, manages to get up, and eventually it ends up in just a proper fucking dogfight. And that's where Dustin Poirier shines. It's where he lives. Other fighters in those flames, they feel uncomfortable. For him, it's right at home. Connects with a big shot, drops the guy, pins him to the fucking cage when he fucking flies down with that big hammer and knocks him out cold at the exact same second of the second round as he knocked out Conor McGregor in his rematch with him. I don't believe in coincidences. When you're in the war like that, Dustin Poirier just fucking shows up every time. And credit to both men, because I've got no doubt they probably weren't paid anywhere near what they deserved to for putting it on the line. The pair of them just went after it. And Dustin Poirier is probably the best fighter in UFC history to not be a champion. He is so well-rounded. He is so unstoppable. What a fighter, man. I'm a big fan. And I hope he gets a title shot after this. It would be a dream come true, I think, for a lot of UFC fans to see Dustin get his moment. I know he was the interim title holder, but he really does deserve to be the champ at least once in his fucking career. Now, earlier in the night, we had a debut as Michael Venom Page, the UK's own MVP, made his debut against Kevin Holland in a really exciting match. MVP is creative, he's flamboyant, he's cocky, and he's exciting to watch. He's even a little bit frustrating to watch at times, to be honest, but not as frustrating to watch as he is to fight, because Kevin Holland, you could tell, was sick as fuck just being in there. I mean, he was being toyed with at times, and that, for a fighter of his caliber, is borderline humiliating. And luckily for Kevin Holland, MVP didn't do some of the basics in between, because there was opportunities for him to stop this guy. If he just got a little bit more focused, stopped clowning around as much, stopped trying to be overly flashy, and just did a little bit of the basics in between, he probably would have stopped this guy. But he even had the UFC commentators openly laughing at the way he was mocking a very light fighter in Kevin Holland. To have that level of personality in the UFC, coming out of the Undertaker theme music, all of that, you're gonna shine, because right now the UFC has never had less personality personality. Like, so many fighters are just boring and ordinary guys, and the guy lit it up, so credit to him. Now, actually, my mate and UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping has suggested Michael Venom Page fight Ian Gary at another UFC event coming soon, and I am absolutely all in on that idea. Ian Gary is very disliked by a lot of people, but full of himself, really rates how high his skill level is. You've then got MVP, who's a very cocky fighter. We put these two together, that is spicy. I want to see who is the more cocky and arrogant and better fighter. And I also think that MVP brings so many things to the table towards an Ian Gary, who a lot of people have said this guy's a future UFC champion, and he might be. But if you are, and you are the future, well, then you should be able to deal with MVP. Obviously, Ian Gary's Irish, MVP is British. Having them fight locally somewhere, maybe it's in London or Ireland, that would be a class fight to watch that. Which is exactly why the UFC probably won't make it happen, because every fucking fight I really want to see these days, the UFC just, not bothered. What you want, John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Nah, we're good. We'd rather put him in with a guy who hasn't had a win in 4 years. But yeah, that's a great suggestion from Bisping. I'm all aboard that. Like, now, I was a little bit sad because Gilbert Burns got knocked out and finished by Jack Della Maddalena on this card. And, you know, Gilbert Burns is one of those guys, he's kind of like a Donald Cerrone. Fighters like him who, they're not the main event all the time, they're not the best in their division, but they show up and they are the backbone of the UFC. Fighters like them, or who other great fighters have had to make their name off. Like, I look at Kamaru Usman's win over Gilbert Burns, one of my favourite performances from Usman, and that was only so good because of how good Gilbert Burns is and what it meant in their rivalry together. And just to see him sort of slightly on the downturn of his career potentially now, it was a sad moment. Credit to Jack Della Maddalena for an amazing performance, because really, I thought Burns was very much in the fight, if not winning the fight before that. So to pull that off, what a fucking win. And, you know, the lad's got a great record for a good reason. So that was my UFC 299 recap. On to UFC 300 soon. Let us know your predictions for that in the comments below. Will Sean O'Malley jump up a division? Will he enter the boxing? Will he just be a dominant champion like I'm suggesting? Let me know what you thought. And also, Dustin Poirier, can he ever become the UFC champion? Let us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, everyone who subscribes to the Pain Game YouTube channel, and a big thanks on 500,000 subscribers. We appreciate it. See you later.